For Lebanese, it's always the GCC. We go to France for education and we try to find work. But it was so harder for a Lebanese to go and start making money in Europe. It's always the GCC. Always. My brother went to Dubai in 2002. He started from there, then he moved to France. It's always the GCC.
And I mean, you must know where most of your client touch points are. Is it mostly through LinkedIn or through your website or through your
LinkedIn, and then when they want to gather some data قبل ما يتصلوا فينا دغري بين عندي فيت على الويبسايت as well. So the fact that he's seeing LinkedIn and directly doing an action كتير قليلة. بس عم يتعرف علينا من LinkedIn بس he always does the research. So بفوت على الويبسايت بيشوف مين الكلاينتس مين الهيك and then he does the action.
Interesting. And do you use then LinkedIn sales portal to then look at decision makers from LinkedIn and contact them that way?
Yeah, بس هيدي بالSMEs أوقات ما بتلاقيهم.
Yeah, a lot of them don't reply.
Exactly. منهم بتلاقي على ال bigger scale. I never message though. هيدي المسجing على LinkedIn I never do it لأنه it's subjective. أنا ما بحبها بس we target them.
Akash or Dan, can you look up on Google Bahrain Business Registry? There's a specific website. So I forgot what the website is called, but basically you can find the directory of any business here in Bahrain, and most SMEs are pretty small and founded from a very small scope. So most of the owners' personal numbers are registered on that site.
Sure, you're not perfect, especially if you're a perfectionist, right? So I've spent almost 2.5 years. Everyone was saying, Aline, why don't you start your own business? And I was like, no, I'm not ready. Everyone saw it before me. I was waiting for everything to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. Now nothing is perfect, but you just have to start. You just have to shift the mindset from being the employee to the employer.
Action is always better than motion.
Exactly. And emotional intelligence is something that me personally, I need to always work on. Because if you don't reach a certain level of emotional intelligence, you're not the decision maker. Your emotions become the decisions for you.
Okay.
So say, for example, even though you have
This sounds like some ESG bullshit. Okay, let's hear it.
No, not really. I'll tell you why. I always tend to value the relationship over money. What does that mean? So even if, for example, one of the clients say they're so good, right? I like dealing with them and so on. But their scope of work is very small, right? They're not paying a lot and so on. I always tend to give them more than whoever is very straight in business, have a clear scope of work, right? This is not professional. So this is not emotional intelligence. And this is why I keep working on that. Fear comes from the lack of emotional intelligence, right? So you're still valuing that fear emotion over the mind, over the business. So I'm gonna do that. This is why I never targeted the big ones at the beginning.
Okay.
You get what I mean?
I sort of, but not really. I'm trying to understand, put myself in your shoes, because when I was in business school, the professor drilled in our heads, the worst they can say is no. The worst they can say is no. The worst they can say is no. So whatever came up, like, oh, should I apply? Should I do this? Should I do this? It was every day. Worst they can say is no. And so I never really felt like you felt, in the sense of
because you come from a different background.
Sure.
Being graduated from a French background, don't forget, I come from a French background. French background is the worst. They don't give you any skills. They don't give you any practical skills, right? So we grow up, you need to be the best. You need to be this. You need to be this. Rejection is out of scope. It's very common in French schools. Very common. So I really struggled whenever I went out and it became practical. I didn't have any of the skills I needed. Because schools give you the skills, right? University tops it off, and then it gives you the knowledge, and then you're ready to go. I remember in my first job, I knew nothing, even though I graduated the first from my university in my field.
What a humble brag.
Exactly.
what a nice way just to slide that in.
And I knew nothing at all. But I didn't know that I knew nothing. I remember my first interview, it was at the bank.
Okay.
I went and it was, I don't remember, but it was like a senior position and he was interviewing me. It wasn't the HR. And I'm going They're gonna
Very
fight for
professional.
me. They're gonna fight for me. I graduated the first from my American university. They want me, you know? I'm the first. I went there and he started asking me. And one of the questions was, where do you see yourself? And I was so arrogant at that time that he looked at me and was like, Aline, would you like to sit at my place? And I was like barely 20, 21 at that time. And when I started my first job is when I posed. I was like, oh my God, I know nothing. I am nothing. Whatever you took is not practical at all. And molding whatever you know into the practical life of working takes a lot of time if you're not equipped with the right mindset and attitude. When people told you the worst thing that can happen is people tell you no, I was growing up, people telling me, you have to do it perfectly. So imagine the difference. This is why you're scared of rejection. You always have the fear of failure. You're always overthinking what might happen rather than deciding and doing the action. So shifting, like we're talking more than 17 years, people telling you that, and then you went to another country and you see that this doesn't work at all. Shifting is not overnight, right? So you start gaining those skills. You start overcoming whatever your mind tells you. This is why you try overcoming fear, but to be honest, it takes a lot of time for you to make it like effortlessly.
So
right?
what you're saying is that the reason you've been in Bahrain for 12 years is because you have a fear of heading out and venturing.
Not anymore. I don't think anymore. The first, not adventuring. I mean, we head out. I live here because yes, it's a comfort zone. Maybe they say success doesn't come from the comfort zone. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Maybe that part of staying here, but I learned how to expand. So now we work with people in Saudi, with UAE. I spent most of my times there as well. Maybe it comes from that background.
Okay, let's roll a little back. You were born in Lebanon.
Yes.
And you stayed in Lebanon until?
I stayed in Lebanon until I was 21 and graduated. And then I worked for, the last year of uni, I had my job there and I then shifted to Bahrain. So I came here, I was 21 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the first job I had here wasn't in marketing, it was in sales.
And so why of all things did you come to Bahrain when you were 21? I mean, sure, that position may have come across to you on the table, but I'm sure other positions also came.
Exactly, yes. In Lebanon, what's the number one thing that we export? We export one thing. We have nothing, right? We export HR. So you're brought up to the stage, like you're thinking.
Not beauty surgery?
That's later, not when I was 21.
Okay.
Now we have loans for cosmetic surgery.
Can you type in what the exports now? What's the number one export? And I'm actually interested. What is it today?
Today, I'm not sure. Maybe surgery, but no, they're going to Turkey, not Lebanon anymore.
Gold?
No.
What?
Not anymore. Not anymore. We don't even.
Lebanon's top exports 2021. Click on the link. Let's see what.
You need to check before 2019.
I'm talking about like today. Gems?
No.
Gems?
Nowhere.
Fruits?
Nowhere.
Furniture, bedding, lights, vehicles?
Nowhere.
Lebanon's top 10 exports account for just 2/3 of the for just over 2/3. That's okay. Its overall value of global shipment.
We don't even have enough in Lebanon to export that. No.
Like, can you do a little bit more research on this, Dan? I'm really interested in this. Like, who's this website by? Worldexport.com. I don't know.
It doesn't look very credible.
That's .gov. That's the government. Lebanon exports. That's the government website. Let's see what they say. Oh, right. That makes sense.
Not a good start.
That makes sense. Is there any World Bank? World Bank is a good resource. Includes World Bank right there. Lebanon trade statistics. Let's see what World Bank says. It's loading. Gems and golds. That's interesting. Okay, that's just the growth. Oh boy, it's been in disaster since 2018.
Yeah.
Well, 19 they had to shoot up though. So what's the situation like in Lebanon? You still have family there?
I have my parents there. Yeah, it's not the best.
You don't want to move them out? Or they don't want to move?
They don't want to move. They
Yeah?
don't want to. Land is very important for parents, right? So we find that like the beauty in life is to start new, right? We have this, but parents and older generation will never leave their houses and lands.
I guess the top 10 exports is still gold, according to OEC.world. I don't know, that could be a reputable website, that could be a terrible website.
I don't think so. I don't.
I mean,
think
would you be
so.
surprised that if you found out that like some private family or whatever owned a large mine?
Not anymore.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
does that sound so strange from
Not
you as like
anymore.
a...
No, not anymore. Because now in Lebanon, we're seeing something we've never seen. There's a lot of difference between the higher level of people and the poor level of people. We always had like the middle level, right? Lebanon was known with that. But now you go and you know it through the cars, through the people, where they hang out and so on. There's a huge difference. So if a family owns that now, I wouldn't be surprised.
Danny, can you type in Gino coefficiency? Gino coefficiency? Gino, like genie, and then coefficiency. And then type Lebanon. Sorry, it's Gini coefficiency. It's the difference between the poor and the rich
Yes.
as an indicator
We're ranked 129.
in the world. That's not too bad.
But
The
it's
Gini index and
different.
poverty ratio, blah, 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 by population. Yeah, that's that. Can you open that link, the Gini index?
But if it's 2017, now it's way larger.
I mean, well, I don't think a lot of good data has come out of Lebanon for the last couple of
exactly,
years.
yeah.
So you got to work with what you got, right? We don't usually go this financial, by the way. This is one of the few times that we're actually in this.
Because you're curious about it.
I am very curious about Lebanon. My dad owns a place there, property-wise.
Which area?
Ain. It's called Ain al-Hamala or Ain something.
We have a lot of Ayn. There's no Ayn Hamala. I'm not sure. Is it
Ain.
in the north and the south and
It's in Lebanon capital,
Beirut?
Beirut.
Okay.
And in Beirut, it's near where all the embassies are.
Ayn al-Mraisi.
That's the one. Yeah, he said when the explosion happened, the windows were all smashed in. So he was lucky. It was just the
No
windows.
one was there, right?
No.
Okay, good.
So he was very fortunate.
Good. My parents live in Ashrafiyya. It was very, Ashrafiyya is like very close, so it wasn't that good. But in Hamad, in 2011, and at my days, it was a bit different. So you grow up on the fact like you need to graduate and you need to be elsewhere because you will not get the opportunities you get in Lebanon. So you grow up to this idea the whole time. And from 2011, I guess we have more than 14 million Lebanese abroad. So we were never strangers to the fact that Lebanese diaspora exists. And it's being successful outside. They're having opportunities outside. So if it's common for them, I need to work toward that. I was not ready at all because you're focusing on what you want. You want to be abroad. But being abroad, starting from scratch, being alone and all of that at the age of 21 is very early. Very early.
Okay.
So again, I was working with Allianz. I was selling investment and life insurance.
Okay, so you started in sales.
Yes. So being 21, meeting 50-year-old people, selling them life insurance, they're wishing they never see you again, but they need you and so on. It was very hard. So it was very hard education for me about the market because I didn't know how to deal with people. I didn't know how to communicate. You know, communication wasn't a natural exercise for me. You're prepared, you go there. It was too early, but at least it gives you the learning of knowing the market in Bahrain, knowing the behavior of the people, how they think and so on. And then you scale it from there. So it was a very good experience, but what got me is just the state of mind that I wanted to find my opportunity out of Lebanon. But it's not something that with time, you don't regret it, but you would look back and pause.
بس حبيبتي when I left Saudi, my thinking wasn't, Ya Allah, خليني أروح البحرين، خليني أروح GCC، خليني أروح الميدل إيست.
لأنك كنت
لا،
بالسعودية.
كنت وين؟ كنت أبغى أروح أمريكا، كنت أبغى أروح يوروب. 100%. You will not be able to convince me that when you were in Lebanon that you didn't dream of France, Europe.
My brother was in France. For us, it was the GCC. No, I totally disagree with you.
لا
For
my
Lebanese, no. For
we can cut
Lebanese-
this all out if you want, but I'm telling you, this is crazy to me.
For Lebanese, it's always the GCC.
ليه؟
We go to France for education and
Okay.
we try to find work. But it was so harder for a Lebanese to go and start making money in Europe. It's always the GCC. Always. My brother went to Dubai in 2002. He started from there, then he moved to France. It's always the GCC.
Yeah, because it's an easier pathway for most people.
Easier path, the opportunity comes easier and you make more money and the lifestyle would be better. I'm saying what we have in mind in Lebanon before you leave Lebanon.
Okay, because I mean, this is a very interesting discussion to get into, because Bahrain has only been independent since 1971 when it left British colonization. Theodore Roosevelt only came to Saudi 1947. So it's not like we're talking about a history that is very rich of resources as money. I mean, Saudi, it wasn't even Saudi with wealth aspect until 1947 with Malik Faisal.
It depends on what you were looking for. If you're looking for a lifestyle and a change of life, because being in Saudi, you're not looking about financial freedom as much as you are in Lebanon and looking toward financial freedom. So it depends on what you're looking for. For Lebanese, it's too hard for you finding the proper job in Europe. I told you the behavior is always you go there, you get the education, and then if you're lucky, you stay. Or you move to the GCC to start making money. That's why you have a lot of Lebanese in the GCC. You have a lot of fresh graduates in Europe and in France.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm telling you from Lebanon side. From Saudi side, it's not the financial freedom and the opportunities and so on, right? If you get the right education or whatever, you have the market for it in Saudi. You just need to change that. You need a different lifestyle. It depends on you. It depends on the people there. But living in Saudi is different than coming from Lebanon.
I hear where you're coming from, but I mean, we can reiterate this again. Saudi's average income is around 10,000 riyal. It's about 2,000 BD. That's a little over minimum wage in the UK, right? In the UK, the average salary is around 50,000, 48,000 pounds. That is converted, 20-something thousand BD.
What about the opportunities
In the UK?
in Saudi?
Hard to say. I don't know if how you would quantify opportunities, because I feel like in the US you'd have a lot more opportunities if you're in certain sectors, if that makes sense. Like if you're a programmer, for example, or content creator in the US, you have enormous amount of potential, where you don't really have that here in Bahrain or in the GCC. Do you not feel do you know where I'm coming from?
I understand totally what you're saying. In Lebanon, we don't even have a good passport that gets you the visa. Okay, so getting the visa is very hard. What's next? We don't even have the opportunity. So people do not even look at what salary I'm gonna get. People just need the opportunity as close as it can get to their major. Because people can graduate in a pharmacy and work as a cashier in a pharmacy. Okay, so they're just trying to get the opportunity. Definitely the ultimate scenario, everyone wants to be in the States, right? It's huge, you can grow this and that, but you can't even get the visa. So I'm not saying you're not allowed to dream, it remains a dream. While in the GCC, at that era, Lebanese people can apply and you can get the opportunity.
Okay. Now you came to Bahrain. You worked in sales. You didn't like it.
No, I liked it. It was perfect for that time. It was
Okay.
perfect for that time. But I wanted after it to get into marketing. That's my major. I love marketing. Sales is not marketing.
Okay.
It's totally different.
Okay.
And then I started scaling. I started another job in a very big school here in Bahrain. I was handling the marketing, and then I became the marketing manager in it, and I stayed a few years there. And then the ultimate dream for a marketeer is the agency life, right? And then I moved to an agency. We handled clients such as Batelco for a few years, and you started growing. And then after it, I worked with another company as a deputy marketing manager, and this is when, after it, I started Willow.
Okay. And now Willow's been up and functioning and running for the past.
For the past year and a half, almost.
Okay, so it's still fairly young.
Yes.
And how did you find your 9 staffs?
All of them were in Bahrain. We never recruited from abroad, from LinkedIn, as simple as that. We posted job offers, and we worked also with a recruitment company that got us few talents that we were not able to locate them through LinkedIn. And we met a lot of good people, but we came across our 9 staff that are currently working with us.
Okay. And what kind of positionings were you trying to fill?
We wanted to go niche. So as an agency, usually the number one mistake that you do is you hire one person and they do several things, right? Long-term wise, you will lose your value as an agency. So the positions we were trying to fill first, the creative seniors, so the creative graphic designer, creative copywriters, digital marketeer, the senior digital marketeer. This is the biggest ones. You know, when you work all the time, you don't have time to think how to make money.
ايه
فأنا كنت دايما يعني for when it comes to work أنا كنت ما ولا مرة كان عندي هيدا 9 to 5 because I didn't want it مش لأنه هي.
فاهم عليك بس حبيبتي we have to also be honest here with each other. When you work for yourself, you work a 100-hour job, so you don't have to work 40.
صح.
You can say, oh, I earn maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 times as
If you're
much.
working 40 hours ما أنا بحكي على حالي I didn't have time to think I want to be an entrepreneur even when I was working the 40.
إيه بس أنا قاعد أقول if you're working for yourself, you work 100 hours often to make the same amount of money as what you did when you're 40, especially the first 2 years, 3 years. Sometimes you're lucky and you branch out and alhamdulillah and it comes easy, but for most cases it takes 3 years until you make your money back.
صح.
And then you're looking at hayatik, because most people are never going to be billionaires. Most people, if they own businesses, they'll be lucky to be millionaires. Lucky. And you have to then ask yourself, hey, you know what? I'm working, 80 hours, 100 hours. ما عندي وقت to show my wife or kids or family or friends. I'm just all the time working. I'm making good money, alhamdulillah. But يعني, is the amount of time that I'm spending between those two occupations makes sense? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs who said, يعني شوف, I made my money and خلاص, I sold my business, whatever, and I work a 9 to 5 job. ليش? Because it gives me purpose in حياتي. I have a reason to get up. I don't need the money, but I do it because I have reason. And the rest of the time I get to spend with the wife and the kids. In my experience with the smaller end of mediums, SMGs, SMEs, is that the smaller end usually expect the world. Like they want to pay the very bottom price.
And they want to get everything.
And they want to get maximization out of you.
100%.
And they call you and they message you and they're constantly behind your ass. And you're like, listen, things take time. We have to deliver and we're going to deliver on this date.
This is why I told you one thing. It's the agency who leads. This is why I told you I will not say we educate them, but there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of awareness. This is our job. This is our scope. This is not our scope. They do not understand what you do, what you don't do. They see you, especially in marketing. Marketing is a very broad topic. They misconfuse you with sales. You need to keep setting the boundaries. What we do, what we don't do. You need to be very careful in communication. You need to be very clear. If we do this can be the outcome. So you need to keep going with him. The moment you stop leading your client and managing your client perfectly is the moment either you will lose yourself and you will fail, or you will lose your client.
Interesting. I don't think we really went into the point that I was trying to make, is that yes, you're right. Setting boundaries is the correct methodology, but that doesn't stop them from calling your personal number.
You manage them.
I really, it's,
Yeah, you need to manage them.
I've had clients where, you know, it was through a friend. They're like, listen, you know, they're a smaller end of it. Do you mind like pitching in? Do you mind helping? Blah, blah, blah. Because they don't qualify either because the volume that they ordered, or they don't qualify based on the price that we generally do. And so I said, fine, you know what, I'll take a little bit of a loss. It's still profitable, but it's not typical, and I'll put myself through it. Every time I've done that 2-3 times, and I never will do it again, it always is a disaster. It always is a disaster. It always is that they call me at all times of hours when I'm like, listen, I'm not in charge of, you know, this particular thing. So for example, textiles, right? It's like, I'm not the tailor, I'm not the cutter, I'm not the guy who's delivering it to you, right? I'm not even the supervisor. You're talking to the owner, me. I can give you a timetable and saying it's done this and this and this. I cannot tell you which unit is done right now. And you don't need to have this information either. بقول ليه والله خطأ وأنا طلبت منكم وأنا أبغى أعرف why bought this and can you not speed up delivery؟ قلت لا ما يعني this is the deal and if you want to take it يعني خلاص. And then they would contact our friend and they شوف وش فيه قاعد لك كمت مع whatever. And you know he's not happy وش قال قلت شوف انت دخلت ذا الرجال انت اسالتني help him ساعده and now he's being a monster. And I've had clients where I delivered them and they like friends of friends clients, and then they came back to me and said, hey, you know what, can we do another order? And I'm like, no way.
تعرف in agencies who is usually a part of the highest paid out of the team is the client management.
Oh, true.
Why? Because what brings the client down is not what happens behind the scenes. يعني انت if you live one day in an agency, the things that you see backstage, what happens behind the scenes never gets to the client.
Of course.
But it's the client management, the client manager. Either he will fail the agency or fail the client. How? He's in between. He needs to know when he's representing and securing the client, the agency, and he needs to represent the client at the agency. And he needs to ensure all the flow becomes smooth. If this person fails, this is when the agency loses the client.
And that's actually really clever. I might implement that. Well, I don't know if I can implement that on my side because we don't really do that kind of business anymore. But on a separate question, I wanted to ask you, how do you handle late payments?
What do you mean in terms of how I handle
Do you do
payments?
punishment fee?
No.
Okay, so what kind of results have you seen with your client base?
In terms of growth?
Growth, sales. What do you?
It depends on the objective. يعني.
What is the general objective that you get? The average.
Definitely, it's 50% growth على 6 شهر. This is the
market share.
Market share عم نحكي للclients. يعني أنت whatever now you're making as a client, if you do the strategy, بس مش تجي you want to implement one tactic only from the agency, that wouldn't get you what you want.
Can you give me an example? A company you've worked with, you don't have to say the name, just what their issue was, what your solution was, and how you accomplished it.
I'll give you a very recent example. We dealt with a factory, factory of plastics in the region, They wanted to reach 5 of their big clients and they couldn't because they were doing only a sales process, And they were struggling because it was very hard reaching those clients. We're talking ethically, we're talking the traditional way. We're not talking about other scenarios, wasta, and I don't know.
You're not talking about outside the box thinking.
No, we're not talking about that kind of out of the box thinking. They needed 5, and those 5 targets, they know nothing comes in wasta or nothing comes under the table because they've been operating for 15 years, the factory. So what we've done, we approached them like, this is our issue. We have our sales force. They're approaching these 5 companies. They have the need, we're not closing. The first thing we ask, do you have the operations, the right operations? Do you have the right need? So they have everything. There's a need. They're not closing the deal. We post. Nothing is known about the company. They're being approached by the wrong people. They're being salesy. they annoyed the hell out of those clients, and those clients cannot tolerate it anymore. So what we advise them, withdraw your sales, sleep on it for 3 months, do nothing but account-based marketing, because it's very complicated. So stop speaking to everyone. They were like, we did ads on LinkedIn, we paid a lot of money, this and this and this, and they have a very specific business. So this ad is just spending on everyone. They're very specific, and the deals that they need to close, not a random person can close that deal.
Sure, so what they need is client management.
Exactly. So we told them, hold on your sales a little bit. Stop pushing sales. We started creating the awareness, creating the trust. Trust wasn't there at all. So still, I didn't do any marketing tactics that converts. We're still building. We built their name and we built their entity. Those target, and I was only working on these 5 clients. I didn't work on any other prospect because they wanted to close these deals. And then I started targeting them. And then we started creating the exact marketing content and strategy for their needs. So, in factories, sometimes they produce big containers. They produce the detergents containers. So it's there are a lot of variables. You cannot approach someone who would be interested in detergent containers and show him huge containers for petrol, for example. It's irrelevant for him. So we started creating the niche needs and being more strategic in what the prospect is looking and targeting them in marketing. The competences of the factory, video content, shooting. We created the brand ambassador. The factory only had the salespeople. This is everything the outdoor knew about them. We started creating all of
brand
that.
awareness rather than pure sales.
Exactly, than pure sales. Then we gave it 3 months. We were working and retargeting and nurturing, and we were seeing whose designation from that specific companies are seeing our ads, they're seeing whatever we're sending them, and so on.
Target marketing.
Exactly. After the 3rd month, we sat with the sales team, and we integrated their sales funnel with the marketing funnel. So let me put it practically for you. If I'm hitting them with any marketing material on a Thursday, the sales team should appear over phone or email or any other, even in person, by the next Monday. Monday, he withdraws. Marketing would be after 3 days. So I'm there, I'm not all the time pushing, and it helps converting.
See, this is where I think we would approach this segmentation a little differently. Because on commodity, when it comes to commodity business, it's a little different because usually on the larger end scales, it's usually a bidding war, both on buy and sell. The whoever offers the cheapest, because it's a commodity, the buyer will buy, and from the seller perspective, whoever can offer me the highest price on this unit, I would gladly go and sell to them, right? So it's a reverse dynamic between both. If it's a commodity, if you're talking about a specific good, then it's different, right?
Yes.
That's it. And it's beautiful.
Interesting seeing someone like this. لأنه صار الcommon if you're sitting with someone, the energy عليهم مش عليك to understand you. You get what I mean? Meeting with you and all your energy goes, you don't want to make an impression. ما همك حالك، ما همك شيء، همك تقدر تفهم اللي قدامك. It's interesting.
Are you doing that sales strategy where you just repeat back what I'm saying in a different way?
Are you doing that now? And then repeating back to what I'm saying. This can go on and on and on,
I hate that. Because I see that.
I'm feeding your energy. I'm feeding you the positive
I see it
energy.
immediately.
It was too cheesy.
I just see it immediately, especially for people in the marketing world.
Thank you for stereotyping us.
Well, if you don't do a stereotypical action, I won't say it.
Now you have to stop.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm so interested in your business, and I'd love to see you be 10 times bigger than you are right now. And I just feel like that, you've got all the pieces, but it's not clicking right now. You know what I'm saying? It feels like it's like you understand the what's missing in the industry. You understand how to reach them, but it's not taking you to the big league. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. That's because I believe the hardest thing you can do is creating the proper business model for your agency or your business. When we started, we had services, but we didn't know where to fit the services. You get what I mean? And it started evolving. We started hearing people. We started hearing the people we meet. We started hearing our clients and molding our services and changing our business model. Within a year and a half, you have no idea how much our business model changed throughout the journey till you reach a level, well, this is your business model. Is it final? I don't believe it's ever going to be final. Because the moment you think it's final is the moment you stop listening to the people and you just listen to yourself. As the needs change, your business model should keep changing as an entrepreneur as you keep growing. So I know exactly what you're hitting. You're hitting the exact pain point. The pieces are there, but because you're thinking of a different market, you're thinking of a different growth, you need to mold it. And some of the pieces, يعني في loose ending somewhere, you're trying تشدها.
Do you not feel like you could dual wield in a sense that you're starting to build after a year and a half the connections here in the Middle East? You're starting to have
Yes.
the networking, you're starting to have the reputation. Don't you think now should be where your sales teams are contacting consultancy companies, agencies, everything else in the US to funnel money through you to then build out that large relation? Do you know what I mean? There's so much
Totally
money
get
in the West
Yeah.
that are begging to reach people in this sector. And you could be in that nice little medium sweet spot where you connect those two.
We dealt with 2 agencies before. Okay, 2 consultancy agencies. They had their headquartered in Jordan and they were operating in the US. And they wanted, listen, we have this and we need the know-how of the GCC. You're there, you have the agency. And we dealt with them. It was a very good deal. We learned a lot because you're dealing with proper, like big companies, not like you're giving, no, you're taking as well from the knowledge. When it happened by chance. We didn't work for it. But also we were so focused on what we're doing because we want to first take the first objective before we scale. So we served that, we kept going, but definitely it's within our future plans, and which should be very near future.
I mean, listen, it depends on the industry you're in, right? I mean, if you're a marketeer perspective, you don't necessarily have to, for example, a luxury brand good. Mm-hmm. You don't need to have a website if you're so niche and you're such the top of the line, and khalas. Like, for example, there's a shop in Italy that makes the socks for the Pope. Mm. Each single sock costs 50 euros. Mm. You don't know the name of it. Mm. I don't know the name of it, but they don't have a website. But if I go to Italy, I can find them. And it's a tiny little shop, right? So it all depends on your segmentation, and they don't care.
But you know what I see from a marketing point of view, if without a website and without anything, he's doing that well. Imagine with a little bit of tricks here and there, how much more market share you can gain.
But there are brands in this world, especially in textiles, that are above Canali, right? And then that are above whatever that London street is called, where the suits are all made.
The Harrods one.
It's not Harrods. There's
the Harrods Street, the one with Harrods.
Can you type in the suit street in London? It's bothering me now that I don't remember the name. But there are places like that. Mm-hmm. Savile Row. There are places like in Savile Row where a pair of shoes costs like 20,000 BD, right? That don't know the name of it. They don't have a website because they don't need to. They have their clientele.
They have their client base. They're targeting to it, and that's.
There's actually a shoe shop there in Savile Row where they take a mold from your feet and they keep it in the shop for life. So whenever you need another pair,
that's interesting. They have the mold.
You call them, and if you don't order for like a large period of time, 20, 30 years, they will call you and to ask if you're still doing well, if you're still alive. Because if you pass away, they take the shoes, then they bury them.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's service, right? I don't know. It's interesting, no?
It's interesting actually to know the model behind it. Like, how did it start? How did they grow their data? How they target them? It's interesting. I haven't dealt with such clients here. Like, they're very close and they're doing very well, and we approach them. So it is an interesting thing.
Well, there are business models on the planet where the exclusivity is so high, they don't want you to know their name. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, especially when it comes to handbags and clothing, where if you're in the know, you're in the know. And that's what they sell. And they sell that secretiveness. And otherwise, forget it. Like, how much advertisement does Bugatti make? Near zero, right?
Definitely.
Right? I mean, Tesla very famously said that they've spent $0 on their marketing budget.
Because these people, just to say, these people believe that marketing harmed them. Because if they broadcast it to more people, they lose their exclusivity, right? In marketing, you're approaching more people. So this is why, not because they're doing well like this, because they really believe if they do any more marketing, it will harm them, not just because it's working the way it's working now. Say, for example, Hermes, okay? Hermes, they do not advertise like an ad for a new Birkin. It would never happen. You usually know from people who purchased it, from the content creators, not from Hermes itself. Why? Because if they put and make this ad for everyone, I cannot have it anyway. I know about it and becomes like not exclusive anymore, even when you're talking about it.
Exactly.
Yes, so this is what they would lose. And even the word of mouth, they don't want everyone to talk about the Birkin.
I don't remember which watch company it is. Not Jacob and Co. Can you type in famous watch companies, Dan? I'll see it if I see the list of the names. So what's interesting about them?
Like your search engine dude.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe type in luxury watch companies. Patek Philippe. That's the one.
Oh, the king wore it several times. He loves it.
Interestingly enough, with Patek Philippe, they don't take on every customer. You have to go for a meeting with them because they want to make sure that if you're wearing their brand, you're the kind of person they want to associate with. Isn't that fascinating?
Does he look like our ideal client? So
exactly, right? You can literally go there with cash in your hand and they will say, I'm not sure, come back for a meeting.
That's why royalties love it. Royalties, the king here loves it. He loves it. Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And they've turned down customers. Claridge's, for example, Claridge is a hotel in London. There used to be a famous story that Claridge's said, is that if you would call them and said you would like to speak to the king, they would say, which one? Because everyone would live there.
It's the king, yeah.
No, not the king from the customer, because literal kings would come and stay in that hotel. It's fascinating. Again, there are hotels on the planet that you can call, and even with all the money in the world, they will still be like, I'm not sure.
But I don't see that in like Arabic startup brands.
It can happen.
It can, but
you cannot list them in GCC though.
Exactly.
You have to list them in Paris.
Paris, for example, yeah. But I haven't seen that. Mention one brand that started as an Arabic brand, and it's very exclusive.
None.
Very exactly.
None.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I mean, that doesn't mean that if a third party or me or you start a business, that you can't have it listed in Paris, and then make a big PR stunt and being like, hey, you know what? We're only going to allow these names to come and purchase from us. That alone is like a huge.
Exactly. But in the end, you're in the PR side, just like we spoke before.
Exactly.
So it's all PR side.
I agree, but Patek Philippe doesn't spend any money on advertisement because they have that reputation. Swiss banks, for example.
And they will never. I don't think they will ever spend money because I told you the mentality, it will harm us. Not only it won't help, I'm fine. No, it harms them.
Imagine this, if you would go, you have, let's say, I don't know, 50, 100 million. You will go to Switzerland, you want to open a Swiss bank account, right? You want to live the top of the top. They will ask you where the source of that income is coming from. Say you operate a legal business. Say you own casinos. They will turn you down and say, these are not businesses we want to be associated with. Imagine that. it's
here, if you go to any business is good business, yalla, anything.
Isn't that amazing? That a bank will not take you as a customer. It's I mean, there's prime examples of that in the UK. There are banks called building societies. These are like they don't like calling themselves as banks, and they operate by referral. So you cannot open that bank account unless
Someone refers
you to that. And that person can only refer one person. So you really have to have a good relationship with that person to give that referral to. And that's it. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing, but it's just triggers curiosity. Like how it started, why did you do that? How does it work? How do you make it work? You get what I mean? Because it's not common around you. So
I can give you so many examples. There are funds in the US to buy into a fund. The minimum purchase price is 50 million, but you can show up with close to 500 million and they will turn you down because they work very exclusive with who they want to work with.
You're talking properties.
No, funds.
Funds, okay.
As in like the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, all of these things, right? There are private funds as well, but the buy-in is, for example, 50 or 100 million. But that's also they don't take anyone. It's amazing. It's so amazing that you can be rejected regardless.
Can you imagine the person going there being rejected, like how they're going out?
Can you type in, Danny, Bohemian Grove? This is the private members club, Bohemian Grove.
I've never heard about it.
Can you type in images? Show images, sorry.
It's in US, right?
Yeah, it's the US. Nixon was part of it. Theodore Roosevelt. That's who? Is that Nixon? Yeah, that's Theodore. No, that's Nixon right there on the right. Do you see who that is on the left?
No.
You don't remember that face from anyone? He's got an economics named after him.
No. I can't recognize him.
You do recognize Nixon on the right.
Yes, but that one.
That guy on the far left, that doesn't remind you of anyone.
No.
Reagan.
Oh. That wasn't even close.
Yeah. After Reagan economics. So
Which part of the US is that?
This is in California. It's called Bohemian Grove, where they have like a statue of an owl. Nixon famously called it the most faggotest place I've ever been to, because he said it was just gays. It's fascinating. Yeah, it was also one of the few places that didn't allow women to work there.
Someone like you saw that picture?
I don't know. You have to scroll down.
Similar.
Who, me with those red eyes? I'm not like that.
Down,
Which one? Down?
Down. They highlighted both of them.
On the left, you mean? Oh, okay.
I don't know, like, who did the circle. He has a lot of free time. Like, I'll do the circle, I'll publish that.
Yeah, but there's plenty of places like that where it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're not invited, you're not invited, and it doesn't matter. You can't buy yourself in. That's the end part. That's where you want to be in life, right? Because what I'm trying to remember who said this. Money isn't for the sake of money. Money is just to keep score. Can you look that up, Dan? Sorry, money's just to keep score. I forgot who said that.
Eric Raymond.
Eric S. Raymond. Why does that name sound familiar? Was he a motivational speaker?
Wait, I want to see how he looks like.
It's going to be an old man. It's going to be an old man. I mean, what do you need to look that up for? Definitely an old man. Control C and then Control V. American software developer.
No, they use them in the reels. He has a lot of quotes about money and business and finances.
Well, did he die rich or did he die poor? That's why I'm more interested. He's still alive? Is he poor or is he rich? He's married to the same woman since 1996. MashaAllah alayh. You don't think that's impressive?
Achievement.
30 years? You don't think it's impressive? 3 to 5 million. Okay. That's not that crazy.
Very rich, exactly. I thought he'd be like very rich.
Interesting quote for a man. 3 to 5 million.
Yeah, you cannot quote him. Who said that? Like, we just did 5 minutes.
I mean, this is another thing. Are you like from me and Dan have this conversation a lot. I'm always terrified of being too successful. That's the thing that I'm scared of.
It is scary. I mean, if you look back to Nokia, you know, and there's a concept they introduced after what happened to Nokia. Nokia crashed from Apple and Motorola and all of this that happened from 2007. It's called marketing myopia. Marketing myopia is when you think you're too successful and you become the center of your product. And this is a fatal mistake. So if you look back, Nokia, they had the triggers, right? The first Motorola was introduced. Something is happening, guys. They were still doing the same thing. They were like, oh, it's gonna fail. We're still gonna... It's Nokia, right? It's Nokia. 2006 ended. They were still making money. 2007, the beginning of it, they boomed. 2007, they crashed, right? It wasn't because just the Apple was introduced. Before Apple, there were signs. Mobiles were changing. The needs were changing. So they fell into that success that you're talking about, what we call as marketing myopia. And they said, we're always going to be successful. This success will not fail, will never fail. We're very successful. We cannot see anything else.
I'm talking about from the personal aspect. And as well from the...
These are people. Whoever thought like this, they were also successful. No?
Yeah, but you know, what I'm worried about is like suddenly every day you're in the press. Suddenly you can't like walk down the street without somebody like yelling your name. Suddenly you're worried about whether your kids...
What are you worried about? Like what kind of, if you become that successful from your perspective, what do you fear exactly?
I would never want to be... this is the duality. I would love to own the biggest podcast in the world, but at the same time, I don't want to be Joe Rogan where he has to travel with the security of 7 or 8 people. You know what I mean? Like this is the duality of your nature.
You don't want to. There's a cost to it, and you don't want to really bear the cost.
Let me put it this way then. Trump, the president, the former president, once said, "There are plenty of rich people who just aren't talked about." That's the kind of wealth you want.
You want to be that rich. You want to be that type of rich.
No. Think about it this way, right? There's plenty of rich people that you don't know their name of, you don't know where they are, you don't even know where they could be, right? What you don't want to be is wealthy and be Elon Musk. You don't want to be wealthy and be Bill Gates. You don't want to be wealthy and be what's his name? The investor, Warren Buffett. You don't want to be those guys. You don't want to have all that money and then people constantly chasing after you, asking you every place you go to eat.
I think they enjoy it because Elon works for it.
I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you they don't enjoy it. I can guarantee you.
Listen, everything comes at a cost. He enjoys the publicity of it. He creates it, okay? I'm talking Alan in specific. He creates it. Maybe he doesn't like the cost that he bears with it. Everything in life has a cost, right? So whatever fame he has a cost. He's enjoying it. He's paying for it.
But I can give you a prime example. My uncle once sat next to Bill Gates on an airplane flight, and they sat for like 7 hours, and they just talked. And Bill Gates himself said, one of the worst things about being the richest man on the earth is that everyone knows it. I don't have anonymity. People come and ask me. And when I don't answer, people then push and become more aggressive. You know?
I understand what you're saying, but again, this is the cost of being very rich.
I don't think so.
If you're very rich and that successful and everyone knows you and looks up to you, right? You're number one in your field, whatever your field is. It comes with many good things, right?
Roosevelt, Clinton, Rothschild, there's another family, I forgot the name. All of them are enormously wealthy. All of them make sure to not be in the press. Paris Hilton, for example, the Hilton family, enormously wealthy. She's the only one that goes out and talks about it. Everyone else is just like, hey, you know what? We'll just...
Hilton, like, behind the shed. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But there's a character as well. There's a character, trust me. And it starts even before you start getting rich. يعني a lot of people we worked with, especially brand ambassador, I'm talking on a very small scale, they're not even successful, let alone rich. They die for the attention. They die to enter the mall and people look at them. I'm not talking influencers, I'm talking brand ambassadors. They like it. Now maybe when you grow and when you become very worldwide successful and people know you're rich, no one wants his door to keep knocking and people asking for money, right? The first people, the family, it's normal. You're rich, you have everything. So other people think they do nothing and they will ask money from you. It happens. Even if you sell a property, right? And people know you have cash on hand, some things change, right? Within the family even. So, but some people, especially the people, I'm telling you from the people we work with, they love it. They love it. They like to be
But how young are they though?
Sorry?
How young are they though?
Some of them are not young. Two of them, and they're known in Bahrain. They're very known.
Dana.
No.
Spooky.
No, I won't say that.
Husseini.
She's in real estate.
Oh, is she on TV? I know her. I know her personally, yeah.
She's like يعني متعطشة للشهرة بطريقة قطت متعطشة للشهرة بطريقة بتقرف عارفة فهيدي ما تقلي هاي إذا صارت successful وريتش رح تقول لا رح تطلع بالبودي جاردز وتصور البودي جاردز وتحب الستيتس أوف الشهرة عرفت فدوت انت ما تقيس الشغله على حالك ما تقيس الشغله على حالك انا I won't enjoy it because I'm low profile you won't enjoy it seems بس في منهم they would
it seems
die.
Dan, what was one of my biggest fears when we go out?
Running into guests.
تخيل انت عم تاكل can you imagine eating in a restaurant حمد يعني منا حلوة.
It's also horrible when you know if I meet you at a restaurant for example you notice me and I don't notice you.
مش بس هيك أسوأ. If I follow you بعرفك ولا بتعرفني و I'm not a guest.
I can't invite 5,000 people.
لا مش inviting. تخيل واحد أنا I follow you أنت قاعد عم تاكل مثلا I follow you perfect شو برافو عليك عرفت هولي
تعال اجلس.
مثلا عرفت أنت listen it's not just success you will face it because you're online. So the worst part is that you won't be very rich and you will face it. That's
the worst of the worst, isn't it?
Yeah, the better part would be being that rich and facing it. But for you, you're online, you're out there, you have a show online. So yes, I can imagine you at a restaurant and you have to bear someone coming to you while you're eating. I watch you, good show, you know something, and then they will start giving you their opinion. I like this guest, get more of these guests. Don't do that. And you're eating, you don't even know them.
Good is okay. No one has problems with compliments, but people have a problem with like, hey, you know what, you said this or that, and I disagree with that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Who are you to disagree? Exactly.
What do you want me to do?
Exactly. And people tend to get comfortable because they think they know you. They forget that you don't know them because they follow you. They know by now your personality, especially you face it.
Because you do long form content.
Exactly. So you will be facing it while you're still not very famous and you're still not very rich. This is not a good scenario, you know?
My dream has always been if I would run a show like in a bigger scale would be to do it the Johnny Carson style Tonight Show kind of situation, right? I like that aspect of it a lot more. From a larger perspective, I hear where you're coming from. I forgot the name of the comedian. He talks about this. He says that he before the venue opens, he would go out and he would greet the fans. And he would take pictures and it would take him 2-3 hours, but he would try to do...
Feel you know each other before you go and talk to them.
Address
them, yeah.
He said one guy came up to him and he said, I'm your biggest fan. He said, okay. The guy was like, no, you don't understand. I'm your biggest fan. And the guy was like, oh, God. And he's like, listen, I don't have much going on in my life, but I tell my friends about you. And so when you're successful, I feel like I'm right. And that, how do you deal with that? How? Marcus Aurelius famously had a man walking behind him who would whisper in his ear saying, you are just a man. You are but a man. right? Because so many people would come up to him and
he needs to keep being reminded you're just a man. I don't know. Like if that happens to me, I know I'll have my mother to remind me.
Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Like when we deviate, I don't know where I come from, my mother that puts you back, to where you come from and all of that, to the kindness and both of
But how often are you going to meet your mom, though? How often are you going to talk to her on the phone where you're like,
I don't know which floor of my palace she would be, but I'll meet her.
Oh, you're going to move her in?
Yeah.
No way. You'll be too busy.
Maybe.
Plus, the really like that kind of level of wealth, they don't have like palaces and buildings. They usually like to have like a small farm somewhere.
Oh.
They don't want to, yani, this. They don't want people like stalking their home. They don't want people like waiting out front of their door.
I mean, you cannot generalize. You really cannot generalize. And the people, they live in Hollywood, the celebrities, 15 to 100 millions villa. No, they're exposed. They know they have paparazzi. They enjoy it. Do they like invading their privacy? No, but this is their life. So it really depends from one person to the other.
Dan, can you look? Egg McMahon? He's a WWE famous wrestler. He had the best way of handling fame. I don't know what Egg McMahon. I don't think it's Egg, but whatever. WWE. Or the WWF, whatever. There, McMahon.
Is that?
Yeah. I could be mistaken, but I think this is
He's the owner.
I think it's him, but I might be mistaken. So how he would handle his fame if somebody would come up to him and someone would come up to him and say, "I'm your biggest fan," or whatever. He'd be like, "Oh, okay, give me your phone number." And so he would get that fan's phone number, and then all times of the day would just start calling his fan. Like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they're at work.
If I know he does that, I wouldn't be a fan anymore.
Exactly. So he would call people like middle of their job at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he'd be like, "Yo, what are you up to right now?" And they would be like, "I'm just at work. I got, oh yeah, cool. Tell me more about it." It's like, "I gotta hang up. I got work to do." "Don't worry about work." So he had this reputation of just like messing around with people.
That's annoying.
Genius, no? That's the best way of handling it. It's the best way of handling it. No?
Maybe it works for him. I don't know. For me, if a person cannot handle it, let him not go there. Let him not go there. And you don't be successful and rich and then complain, "Oh, but I lost my private life. I don't like going out," and so on. Either you can do it or don't do it at all. Really. Don't be. I don't like when some people are so rich, they're known. It's like, I can't go to this restaurant, or in Paris, I walk in the Champs-Élysées and they recognize me and this and this. It's not meant for you, so don't work on it. But you see, like celebrities, some of them, they enjoy their bodyguards. They're on their social media. They enjoy this life. They're meant to live this life. They can, personally. They have the attributes of what it takes.
I think it's all borrowed time, though. Even if you enjoy it, even if you love it,
I think it was before. Now with social media, because they're getting the exposure, right? Before it was boring because, khalas, what else? Whoever's seeing you and so on, you didn't have the media for it. It was known, the word of mouth. They were talking about it. People are bored. Now they're doing different content about it. So there you have the engagement and you have the tool you're giving to these celebrities or rich people to actually enjoy it.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that they're living on borrowed time, not that the next generation comes after 20 years, and unless you can connect with them somehow, you're out. You're out. I mean, even the most popular bands in the world, AC/DC, Eric Clapton, all these folk are now becoming more and more normal.
Yeah, because the generation Z now is the most challenging one.
Is it Z or Alpha? I thought they're called Generation Alpha.
Z now is like very complicated.
Wait, you're millennial or what?
I'm a millennial, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a millennial. The Generation Z is one of the most complicated to actually reach it. It's very different. It's like, even I watched something like, if they're going to the interview when you used to go to the interview, when I used to go to the interview, just answering the questions, job interview, and so on, just giving whatever information the second interview would ask. Now the Generation Z, if the company doesn't abide by their values, they wouldn't even join it. So the attitude, the behavior as a consumer, the behavior as their attention and so on, it's much more different than any other generation we targeted as marketing.
But the economy is also changing into a stage economy. Well, stage isn't the right word. Where you're almost everyone's becoming self-employed. Uber drivers are self-employed. Delivery drivers are self-employed. Right? It's becoming a gig economy where people don't really have a connection with the firm. Amazon famously says they're if you're coming from the entry level as shipping, after 3 years, if you're fired, you're out. They don't want you to work there more than 3 years, and they claim that the data shows that after 3 years you become lazy. So I don't know what that is either.
Yeah, but it is different now. It is different. And if, for example, going back to borrowed time that you said, it's a very beautiful word. It is borrowed time. This is the first thing actually we tell the people that we address, and they think, I'm doing well. They're growing with whoever they started targeting. But targeting the younger generation is a failure for them. So yes, it is borrowed time for everyone, even on a business level, not only on a successful level in the media and bragging about it. It is borrowed time for everyone. The businesses that started 10 years, 20 years back, okay, they started targeting specific people. They had their learnings. They learned from their success, and they started building on their success, right? Normal way, typical way. They reached the level they're successful. They're doing very well. This is our way. Whoever they targeted, they grew, right? عم بيكبروا. The challenge is how to reach the younger. هون, most of them are failing. How to reach the new generations, how to actually reach the younger generation. It's not the same way at all. And it's a constant learning curve even for marketeers. Yani before COVID, it was something. After COVID, it was something. It didn't change as much for millennials, for example. It's the same. But it's changing for the younger ones. So it is borrowed money for anyone.
Borrowed time, you mean, for
yes,
everyone?
Yes, borrowed time for everyone.
I agree with what you're saying. I think things are adapting and moving at a much quicker pace than it has ever before.
Yes.
This is, we touched on this earlier, and I said that you really naqas the content on your end. I don't know. I mean, we talked a little bit off this camera, and if you're happy to talk, we can talk it now. The educational platform that you want to do, do you see it as more like being masterclass? Do you see it more as being from a degree level, like you get a diploma if you finish the course?
It's a certificate level, yes. That's
so
why
a diploma.
You need to make it accredited. That's what we're working on as well. Because a certificate doesn't have any value like just you give a certificate, right? It has to have the accreditation that's backed up by names and so on. This is what we're working on. But the bigger question of that is why? Why do we need to do that? Because when you get a diploma or a master's degree or a bachelor degree, when my bachelor degree doesn't have any more value, especially in marketing. It's totally obsolete. When I learned, marketing was still 4 Ps. Now I was reading it's up to 43 Ps. From 20, it's up to 43. Whatever I've learned, you throw it in the trash. The only thing that a degree gives you, especially in marketing, is the skills and know-how and the logic behind it.
Okay.
Because marketing is using the tools in your era, right? Whatever the tools we had when I graduated, they're outdated. Things change. Marketing changed.
I mean, I don't agree with you on every. I mean, come on. You're being hyperbolical.
No, you don't have to agree.
No, but you're being hyperbolical. I mean, there are fundamental truths, right? I mean, SWOT analysis, pastel.
That's what I'm saying. You get the basic.
Sure.
I'm not saying you don't, but work on the basic. Can you execute on the basics? You cannot execute.
I think you can.
What's the tool? Marketing, it's about the tools.
Sure, SWOT analysis. For example,
You're in the
Porter's
planning,
5 forces.
Planning, fundamentals.
Porter's 5 forces, sorry.
You're still in the planning, fundamentals, strategy.
Sure.
Yes, I'm talking the execution. How you take your fundamentals into the execution side, you need to be updated in what's happening around you in that year.
But do you not see marketing changing from, I mean, it's hard to say. We can agree and disagree on this. I believe that marketing, me and Dan disagree on this a lot as well. Your cost benefit or cost per follower or cost per reaching a customer is lower on print than it is right now on social media. Because
you cannot measure the same way.
Yes and no. I think that it's been shifted now in people's minds. If you get a letter, it seems premium, right? It's not just an email that you throw away that you don't open, right? And so there's things are changing now. It used to be that if you just got mail, I remember the 90s and the early 2000s, you got all this junk mail and you just threw it out.
Yeah.
Now I don't receive almost any junk mail, and it's only bills. That's the only thing I get these days. It's just bills. So I think there is fundamental truth. If you're a very high-level, high-end brand, to cherry pick a few customers, 100 for example, especially if you're selling a high-ticket item, and then you just send a little letter, handwritten maybe, that has a lot of value now.
It's always had value. And I remember even the year I graduated, where I worked there the first year, we even customized the envelope wax, and all of that just for status, and it's more personalized. And we did it even from that time. This never changed because the status ways didn't change. The fundamentals didn't change. The strategy even didn't change. But if you only know that, you will stick to your plan, and it would be just papers on your office, and you will never execute anything. That's why we ensure, as if you want to keep being successful in your career, you have to have in your agenda at least once a year a big topic, either a certificate, whatever you enroll, you need to learn something new that's happening in order to keep going. Because the execution of these fundamentals would depend on a tactic, either technology or something, a trend, whatever is happening, so as you benefit and you leverage on it.
Okay, it is true that you need to leverage your opportunities that is available to you.
Yes.
But market is dynamic and things change, right?
Yes.
We can agree to this both. I reckon that if me and you both took 1,000 BD and we wanted to increase sales for a client, for example, and you would do social media, be it through TikTok or Facebook ads or whatever, and I would go and get print adverts done, just printed flyers, and I'd go to Moda Mall or some of the richer areas, and I just put a flyer on their windscreen. I would imagine, and I'm talking completely my ass, I would imagine I would get more sales volumes and more phone calls than you would do through social media.
I will tell you my opinion on that. I believe everyone who clicked on your ad digital and became a client definitely saw you 6 to 7 times before elsewhere. Many times.
You're using that old adage, okay, yeah.
Many times, and I'm saying based on experience. Many times the offline, for example, be it flyers, be it megacons, or any offline tactic, you don't track it. A lot of people say, but digital, go digital, khalas, digital ads, lesser budget or whatever. Go digital only, you won't have it, because whoever clicked or whoever made the decision, be it on your flyer or on that digital ad, saw the digital ad before, saw the flyer, saw the name, and then he made the action. It's not the first time that I see and the client makes the action, because you need to understand as well there's a lot of people as well doing the same thing.
معك حق. And I think that
so
flyer...
it's not a question of offline or digital or flyer or personalized or direct or whatever. An ad, if I direct it to one person on LinkedIn, is more effective than a very bigger campaign.
Sure.
Example.
Sure.
A flyer that I can reach, or a gift pack I can send to a decision maker in a certain company can get me close a deal. A full marketing funnel can fail it.
Absolutely.
It depends on the scenario. But if you're talking generic, they complement each other. I would take a step further into this, and I would say that if I look at through my analytics itself, when I run ads for the reels or whatever else, I can see that it's about anywhere between 1% to 3%
right? And it's also because we don't use a hook. We're not trying to sell anything. We're just trying to make awareness, right? I know that if I spend the exact same amount and I just buy flyers, I know for certainty 100% of those flyers would have been seen. Maybe not gone onto our site, maybe not done to a click, but I know for certainty it's been seen. While on the other hand, on Insta, I can look at the analytics and I know that less than 1% or about 5% opens it.
But there's a lot of factors in that. First, if you specifically as a business did a flyer, it's out of your image. You're even damaging your image.
Interesting.
Because the flyer would be outdated for you as a tactic. Flyers are very outdated. You're a podcast, you're digital, and you go send out flyers.
Absolutely.
It's very bad for your image. People would see it, and it's very bad. Supermarkets, they do flyers. Flyers are outdated when it comes to what you're positioning yourself.
The reason I winked at you is because you're almost out there, but here's what I mean. You make the flyer with a QR code, right? You brand that mystery aspect to it. There's a reason when you go into Europe and you go into
Where would you place the flyer?
I mean, I don't know. If you're
know
asking
why
me
I'm
seriously,
asking? You know
seriously,
why I'm asking?
I would say Moda probably. I would probably go to the local gyms. I would go to
Moda Mall.
I would go to the malls, not just Moda Mall, but I would go to the malls.
With what they would give the flyer? They would place it on the reception?
Here's no. I would pay a car wash guy, and here's 5BD. حطه على doors. Let me finish. I would go to the gyms, and I would again do the same thing there because I have to choose audiences that have the longest amount of drive period.
No amount of reach will get you this flyer as much as the damage of a flyer. Someone took it out of the window, did like tear it or whatever, and threw it on the floor.
Let me ask the two boys here, Danny, Akash. If you guys would have had a flyer in your car with just a blank like white sheet with a QR code, would you or would you not scan it?
I wouldn't. I would never scan it. I would think like it's a virus or something. I would never scan it.
I would definitely scan it. Even if I see a QR code like on a wall, I would scan it.
And I would never go with a brand on a flyer on a car. Or
I would
with a car
use
wash.
completely white space, nothing else other than a QR code.
Do it.
خلاص. I'll show you the analytics.
it.
I'll show you the
Yeah,
analytics.
do it.
I'll show you the analytics.
Do it.
Well, you can come on, inshallah, in 2 weeks, and we should have at least probably around 1,000 printed.
Yeah.
And then I want to see, and I'll track the analytics on because I'll make it sure that it connects to our Unsolved Truths / podcast, so I can see immediately the analytics of people scanning it. I really think so.
Do it.
You
Try.
really wouldn't scan a QR code?
No, not only I wouldn't scan it. I wouldn't do this to the logo and the brand.
Really? I think the added mystery.
I don't want the reach that I would get from a flyer.
Okay.
Because long term, the damage on the logo or whatever.
Who cares?
قلبي.
Who cares?
No.
It's
no.
Why are you worried about a market that has 1 million people?
What do you mean?
It's only 1.6 million people. I can show you my analytics. Most of our listeners aren't Bahraini.
Do it.
But do you know what I mean?
Do it. There's a perspective. Marketing is subjective. For me, the brand is valuable. I cannot just do whatever works now, and I know long term would damage the brand.
Yes, but we're speaking two different animals. If you're saying to me, is the brand or value, is there value behind the brand? I would say, yeah, sure, maybe. Because I'm not sold on the sociological issue from it, right?
But as marketing, I have to put it on the table for the client. For you, if you're telling me this, I have to tell you the damage behind it. If a paper on the floor and something, منا elegant, it's not a classy approach. You're مثل door to door أو هيك.
Okay.
Now it would get you the scanning. They would follow you. البراند تبعك they follow you أول شيء. Okay. عملت الباز اللي بدك تعملها. بعدين you damage the brand بهيدي التاكتيك. منا tactic
ليش انت قاعد تفكر damage it؟ لأنه if you get a blank piece of paper.
عندك two parts. عندك two parts of any marketing that you do. عندك short term factor, long term factor. When you talk long term factor, you talk branding. Okay, اللي هي أنت قيمة البراند, قيمة the unsolved truth مثلا. أنت with time you're creating قيمتها اللي هي برات بس عدد الفولورز, برات بس عدد الفيدباك, عدد الانتر. في عندها قيمة أكبر اللي هي you can leverage عليها. هي حق البراند, right? Brand equity. البراند equity هيدي بتشوفها long term wise إن كان سلبا ولا إيجابا. ما بتبين عليك هلا اوكي سلبا ولا اجا حتبين بعدين. انت if you go through these tactics اللي هن ما بيزبطوا معك، يعني شايف لو عندك cold store it's a cold store عادي fast moving and so on. انت it's all about the experience. you're حتى it's people, you have a lot of people involved, your whole work is about people. So you cannot just go in a cliche way وحط flyers والعالم to handle يتعاملوا معه بطريقة هيك وتنكب على الأرض وما بعرف شو. it's not okay. أنت ما فيك بس تحط QR، ما بدك تحط اللوجو بنص ال QR.
والله شيء بس واقع white.
it's nice as an experiment. ليش لا؟ اللي whoever will not scan it ما حيعرفك مين.
بس
so ما بيعني.
that's because I think a hook in this is the mystery. وش ده? Do you get what I'm saying? That's what I think the hook is, right? And we're talking. I mean, this is now different animals we're broaching into. The reason why I'm not too يعني ناقص or worried is because as long as this platform is on a server and services that I don't own, it cannot have value. It cannot have value because I will. يعني you can get me the biggest Instagrammer guy here, and if he doesn't own the service level, I would tell you, get the fuck out of my face. Right? Because if I can run an ad with you today, and then how do I know that tomorrow you're not canceled?
صح.
Right? And Akash has this great joke. He says we're called the unsolved truth because eventually we'll get canceled and then we'll be the solved truth. I think that's a great line.
We solved it, we're done. We met all the people we need.
that's what they.
Then you said you and Akash.
Exactly. And that's I think this is, we had this conversation a little earlier. I think there's value in that this market and this industry has to wake up and has to start owning the supply side. And that's why the networking thing is so important. That's why I want to do only shorts and reels for Instagram. I'll keep the audio on the normal RSS, like Spotify and stuff like that. YouTube, I'll only put snippets on it.
You're not putting full?
I'm not going to put full because I'm going to move it all to my own website.
Okay, بس هلا أنت عندك episodes full.
Yes, for now we're doing it until the website is finished, and then the website is already done, but the problem is we don't have the servers yet to store the video and make it accessible because I don't want to work with AWS.
A lot of storage. عندك هيكون you need like.
I mean, that's a problem.
Hosting storage عندك مشكلة فيه هيكون.
The problem is the investment perspective, right? You can work with AWS, which will cost you $1,000, or you can own your own service and it'll cost you $10,000. The return.
Exactly. يعني أنت حسب وين شايف هذا الشيء حيصير، يعني عرفت to invest. يعني أنت وين حتوصل؟ حتضلك بس بالبحرين أكيد لا. Then.
So my vision from a larger perspective is, like I said earlier off the camera, is to be a network.
Okay.
And in a sense, I want to be Universal Studios. I want to be Disney. I want to create content, and I want to create content regionally, in this region, because there is Bollywood, there's Toywood, there's all these other.
And without having a niche, صح؟ يعني أنت بدك تضل anyone ولا بدك تفوت مثلا بنيش معينة يعني.
طبعا في اشغال نقدر نسوي content on, and في اشغال ما نقدر نسوي content عليه. Like I cannot have police drama هنا in Bahrain, especially with corrupt police. No way.
Let's not go extreme. أنت ما عندك preference. You don't have like specific preference topics معين. So you want to explore variety. تبقى بالvariety اللي أنت هلا عم تعمل.
The next, as if this is stage 1, for me stage 2 is we're right now building up and purchasing more gear, getting a bigger space.
Okay.
And then we'll get small-time creators here in Bahrain. وش يشوف هنا equipment. Here's a budget. Go and shoot.
Do the content.
Do the content. Do short stories. Do noir movies. Do يعني قصة صغيرة. And then of course we're also the publishers, right? When we do a subscription model of like Netflix, like Amazon Prime, like all these other things, and the creator gets قطعة.
صح.
صح?
صح.
And so this gives the ability of us being able to produce localized content to a local market, highlights it internationally, because this is what policymakers want, And in the beauty of all this is you're not in a position where you have to produce that content. You're just in a position of
فهمت عليك.
selecting
فهمت عليك.
creators.
Yeah.
It's
بس
just,
انت كمان حتبقى يعني انت you're gonna still be there ولا لا؟
I don't know. We'll see.
معقول to fade out؟
Maybe. I like being the man behind the curtain.
ولا؟
Yeah. I do this because I get to meet people who are interesting.
Yeah.
I don't do it because I want to make money. I don't care.
بس it's nice يعني ما بعرف حس it's nice انت تبقى يعني not to fade out يضل مثلا بس تكون very selective يكون scarcity بالappearance تبعك مثلا عرفت مش you get what I mean right أو you meet like very important people بس أو topic معين يعني تعمل specific positioning لإلك يكون مختلف.
Sure, but you know everything has a flip side. You know when you have very important people on at very high levels, you're also then becoming a target as well.
target من أي ناحية؟
For politically, if
كتير
we'll have to
منتبه على هذا الموضوع. I understand لأنه أنت in your face كتير يعني.
بس مش بس كيفية بس بعد internally. If I, for example, one family member interview and the other don't, يكلمنا علي ليش خذيت أخوي ليش خذيت عمي ليش خذيت
وبعدين
أختي.
بتاخد side ومين أنت your meeting
Exactly.
ومع مين محسوب وما بعرف شو.
Exactly, and this happens not just in this region, it happens also in the West. So this is the reason why you don't want to.
بس حرام يعني الواحد you're held down بهالأمور يعني حرام.
Why do you think Joe Rogan has never interviewed a president? Not because he doesn't have the influence. He's been contacted multiple times to interview presidents.
ما بده حدا ينحسب عليه.
بالضبط. He doesn't want to get into that game. Anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
That's it. It's a pleasure
No,
being on your
pleasure is
show.
all mine.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks a lot for 5 hours, maybe 5 hours.
How would people reach you?
Through the LinkedIn and through Willow and Tree Instagram. LinkedIn, I already gave you my personal LinkedIn, so they can reach out anytime.
We'll put our LinkedIn in the bio. If you're looking for any kind of marketing strategy in the GCC, potentially even in the world, I think you would be a fantastic fit for any company who's looking to expand and grow.
Thank you so much, Hamid. It's a pleasure and it's a very nice experience to be on your show.
Thank you very much. You don't have to kiss my ass.